Hello, Hilary. Welcome to the Women Waken podcast.
I'm so grateful to be here, Whitney. Thank you.
Hilary, I am so excited to have you on the show. I'm trying to contain myself because today we get to talk about your work with star seeds. How do you refer to them? Beings from other parts of the cosmos? How do you refer to it?
Normally,
Benevolent higher
star
dimensional
beings.
beings. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, star beings, benevolent higher dimensional star beings.
Incredible. I can't wait. I can't wait. But first, Hillary, other than communing with benevolent star beings, you are an intuitive healer, you're a teacher, you're a mentor for healers, and you've devoted more than 23 years to this path of awakening and healing. So that's pretty incredible. It seems I would imagine that means most of your life you've spent doing this work.
Yes, I started when I was 17, so now it has been most of my life. It's been an incredible journey.
Beautiful. So, Hillary, why don't you take us back and share how did you come into this realm of connecting with your psychic abilities, intuitive abilities? How did you first realize that that was attuned for you? Did you grow up in a household that was prone to opening to more, meditation, psychic stuff, spirituality? Where were you born? Tell me everything.
Oh, wonderful. My upbringing, I felt like in a lot of ways was a catalyst where I definitely didn't have a spiritual or conscious upbringing, but a lot of the trauma that I experienced in my upbringing became like a catalyst for what would later lead to the transformation. And I really believe that oftentimes our souls can learn and grow the most through these different challenges that we experience. And I know right now on Earth, we're all being challenged, but the combination of both of my parents, who I love dearly, but they both made a lot of decisions and choices that caused me a lot of trauma in my life, and from addiction and incarceration and abuse. And that left me at the point when I was 17 years old that I felt like I could not even continue with my life, that I had had so much put on me, especially a lot of abuse from my mother, where I felt like her unprocessed trauma was sort of projected, projectile right on me. And that is when, at that young age, after a failed attempted suicide, when I survived the suicide, I knew that I was here for a reason, and I knew that I had to find a way to heal. I was acutely aware that I could not continue living with all that I felt had been put on me. And I had received some messages as a child from who I thought at the time was maybe a guide or angel, even though I was never really introduced to that, and who I was later shown was actually my own higher self, helping me recognize that what I was seeing around me was not a reflection of who I am. Because for many years as a child, I internalized everything that was happening, and at young ages thought that everything that was happening was somehow my fault simply because I existed. So, this set a huge path of healing where in the beginning, because I struggled with a lot of not good enough, I never contemplated becoming a healer. I never contemplated becoming a spiritual teacher. I just started taking a lot of trainings for myself because I was looking for a way to heal and return to myself. So that started with studying a lot of in-depth alchemy, yoga, meditation, kundalini yoga. Those were kind of some of the starting things on my path. And then at a certain point, my guide shared with me, you didn't learn all of this just for yourself, because for years I was trying to create a business that was maybe a product, like a conscious product business, or trying to get a job or live maybe a slightly more ordinary life. I wasn't going for this career. And my guides shared with me at a certain point, you didn't learn all of this just for yourself. You're here to teach. In that, I started training healers. I created my own yoga school, different healing arts academies. And for many years, I've been teaching now for 18 years since I was 22 years old. And for many years, I was teaching things I had been taught, like working with Kundalini energy, working with Reiki, working with alchemy. And at a certain point, when I started connecting more to these benevolent, multidimensional, higher dimensional star beings, a group came to me, and the initial group was actually the Lemurians. And they said that I will no longer be teaching anything I've ever been taught or anything I've ever taught before. And that, about probably now 5 years ago, kind of set me into the path of everything I'm doing now, where I started connecting with all of these different star beings and these fairies and all of these guides. And they started bringing these healings and teachings through.
Wow. That's amazing. Okay, so to take it back a little bit, of course, I want to get more into that. Let's go back to when you attempted that you didn't want to be here anymore. Immediately after that, did you think that spirituality was the answer? I know you said that you sort of were guided to realizing that I didn't die, so there must be a reason that I'm here and I want to find a purpose. But rather than thinking, okay, I want to be a conventional teacher, I want to write a book to encourage people to persevere, you were led towards this sort of more mystical path. So, my understanding is that we all pick, and I understand this from accounts of near-death experiences, we pick the exact experiences we have on Earth. We sort of prearrange it to say, okay, first I'm going to go through this dark night of the soul, this real deep, dark place, so that I can have this revelation and come through stronger. So when you reflect now and when you connected with these other beings, were you basically told that this was the plan? That you were meant to kind of hit this? Do you think you would have been able to have this awareness and connection and awakening if you hadn't gone so far into a place of desperation?
A friend once said that, an intuitive friend said that the depth of darkness that I went into, that I was in my upbringing, allowed me to enter this spectrum of light later on. In that moment after the attempted suicide, I didn't know the whole picture and I was not yet receiving messages from my guides. I just knew I had to heal and I was so open to anything. And a lot of sort of advanced ways of working with energy, working with frequency, working with alchemy, working with Kundalini energy kind of opened up to me really, really quickly after that. I sort of was following the golden breadcrumbs.
Beautiful. So, thank you for sharing that. And thank you for your honesty in allowing others to understand that it doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with you when you get to that place of feeling hopeless. It just means that we haven't received the nourishment and sustenance that we need to feel healthy and loved. And love is everything, right? So when we have this sense that I don't even feel that my parents are safe or love me, I don't feel like I belong, I don't feel secure, stable, loved, we inherently lose our connection with this place that's already a difficult place to be, right? Earth is not an easy place to live. I'm sure that your guides and the benevolent beings share that with you and encourage you. I mean, that's my understanding is that when those of us who work with these beings, it's because they're trying to encourage humans to connect more and realize don't give up. Please don't give up. You've lost your way, but there's still hope in this seemingly desolate, scary, often lonely place. And I think I'm a big fan, and I talk on the show often of how the micro is just a smaller version of the macro. So you reaching your dark night of the soul is exemplifying what I consider humanity's place right now. We're in a dark place, and we really have been for most of our history because we believe that we are not connected. And we believe that we can't know whether we're unconditionally loved by a source that created us. And that's a dismal and dark place to be. And that's exactly what it feels like when somebody wants to end their life. It feels like, why should I want to stay? I don't matter. I can't know that I'm loved or protected or safe or will be provided for. And so you want to leave. So I'd love to hear from you when you first started connecting with these beings, what was their primary message? Were they more focused on working with you to regain your sense of confidence and love and assurance that this is a beautiful, benevolent universe? Or was it immediately into, we would like you to be one of our ambassadors, representatives of this higher consciousness?
That's such a beautiful question. And when I really began connecting more deeply, I was receiving messages sort of spontaneously or sporadically for many, many years. But the deeper connection developed 5 years ago, where different beings started coming to me. A fairy queen council, the Lemurians gave me that message that my whole work was going to change. I wasn't going to be running my Awaken Love Yoga teacher training anymore, that so many things were shifting and changing. And then I was doing an energy healing session on Zoom. And in that session, the Arcturians came in and they're like, we're going to bring in the light up these holographic fields of crystalline living light of the crystal chambers. We want to do the nervous system regeneration on this person. I could feel how pure they were. I'd connected with the Arcturians before. So I welcomed it, and the recipient of the healing wanted to receive it. And that's when they started giving me a lot of information how the density on Earth that we experience, how different maybe governmental forces or control forces, how they've impacted the nervous systems of humanity. Then they started explaining like forces who really don't hold the purest intention for humanity, as why, like, why is our food the quality that it is? Why is our water the quality that it is? Why are there sprays in the skies and everything that there is? That those things have greatly impacted the hormones, the endocrine system, the nervous system, but they've also really impacted our energy field, like the aura or the biofield. And those were the first three primary healings that the Arcturians began training me in, and really explaining how, of course, from our childhood trauma, but also from the intensity of the life experience. They also showed me, and one of the key things was, as the sort of global awakening or global ascension kicked up, that each one of us are in a personal ascension process, which is really like a anchoring in the truth of who we are. And when someone's in that hopeless place, how I see it, it is they've taken on too much that is not the truth of who they are. So, in that, the Arcturians want to help us with really, really pure frequencies of light to harmonize and return to ourselves, because they see how much we're struggling, and they are masters of ascension. The Arcturians are the master healers of our galaxy and the masters of ascension. They have gone to become ninth to 12th dimensional beings, and they're the keepers of pure spirit, one with source, sort of ambassadors of source, extensions of source, just as we are. So it was really beautiful to see. And when they shared all that with me, I was like, I understand it, because I was dealing with so many nervous system issues, hormonal issues, feeling bombarded energetically as well by the collective intensity. So it all just instantly clicked and made so much sense for me. And when I started receiving the healings and then sharing them with others, or that first person was the first to receive it, and then I started going deeper and receiving and then sharing with others. And it's been a really, really incredible to witness all of the miracles that have occurred.
I guess so. Okay, Hilary, I have so many questions, so I'll try to contain myself and take it slow. So, first of all, do you consider yourself to be one of these highly evolved beings? Do you consider yourself to be an Arcturian or a Lemurian? Or do you, or are we, okay, here's my question. I always wonder, aren't all of us kind of, as we might think of it, immigrants? Aren't we all kind of, or is there such thing as an actual earthling? Or are we all sort of transplants from other species in the solar system? That's something that's hard for me to wrap my head around. I feel like my idea is that there are beings who originated on Earth. Maybe the first time in a true non-spiritual form was on Earth. Those are Earthlings. There's many of us that are on Earth for the sole purpose of helping it to evolve, to ascend, because just as you said, it's really dipped into this dark place of the universe where disconnected from source, right? So, with that said, do you see yourself as like someone that was planted here, or do you like a star seed, right? Or do you see yourself as someone that these beings are just wanting to connect with?
That's such a great question, and it's kind of a multifold answer. One, in all that came through, another thing that came through was being able to read people's soul essences, where I was shown that the lifetimes we've had in different civilizations or different realms infuse our soul essence. So, for example, if someone had had many long, long lifetimes in the Pleiades as a Palladian star being. Maybe they're 90% Palladian, but then maybe they've had some lifetimes in the fairy realm and they're 10% fairy. I've been shown people can have their soul essences from the angelic realm, from the elven realm, from the star seed, star being realms, fairies, and sometimes mermaids, and all of these frequencies that make up our soul essence. So that was really beautiful to see. I think it's definitely possible. I'm being told that there are some souls who first incarnated on Earth, but it's more rare. There are souls who've had many, 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 many lifetimes on Earth because they're working through a lot of curriculum and they're growing and evolving their soul through the tough curriculum of Earth. Because Earth could be like Harvard of all of the schools. Like it's a difficult school, that's for sure, and a beautiful one, but a challenging one. So yeah, the vast majority, and I think everybody listening to this has had incarnations in other realms, in the angelic kingdom, within these different star civilizations. And then I'll share my personal soul essence. So, what had happened was around 8 years ago, I went to a diamond light body activation. And keep in mind, I'd been doing a lot of deep spiritual work for a very long time, alchemy work, energy work, trauma healing, but I had not yet had my cosmic awakening. And sometimes I think we have different awakenings at different times. Like someone's like, oh, now I'm aware of the angelic kingdom, or now I'm aware of the spirits of nature and the fairy kingdom. So, I went to this diamond light body activation. I'd never heard of the Arcturians. I'd never heard of the Palladians. I'd never heard of any of the benevolent higher dimensional star beings. The woman who was doing the activation was chanting all of these kinds of light language: Palladian light language, Syrian light language, Arcturian light language. During it, she said, don't be surprised if you wake up tomorrow speaking languages you don't recognize. And my sort of doubtful mind was like, oh, that won't happen. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow speaking languages I don't recognize. But then, sure enough, I woke up the next morning in my garden when I was still living in Toronto, Canada, speaking languages that I don't recognize. And then I was shown that what I was speaking was Arcturian, Palladian, and Andromedan. So Arcturus is called the orange giant, and it's one of the brightest stars in the Milky Way galaxy. The Pleiades, often called M45, is a star cluster within the Milky Way galaxy. Andromeda is our neighboring galaxy, and scientists believe that the Milky Way and Andromeda are eventually going to, in hundreds and hundreds of thousands of years, come together as one. So then I was shown in time, the reason I spoke those three types of light language is because I had had many incarnations in those three different star civilizations. But I also have a lot of priestess energy. I'd been a high priestess in many lifetimes, like the Hathor Temple in Dendara, in Lemuria, in Atlantis. I was also came to show that part of my soul essence is a fairy queen of light, that there are many fairy queens, but I'm part of a council of fairy queens and I work with the frequencies of light, that I have the angelic quotient within my soul. And I see that with a lot of people where I'll see, like, oh, okay, it's like 20% angelic, 15% fairy, like this much Palladian. And so mine's a mix. And just like in my human form, I'm maybe a mix of like 12 different nationalities. My soul essence is a big mix too.
Wow, a little cosmic mutt, if you will.
Exactly.
Okay, so that's incredible. I've never heard of somebody waking up and speaking these other languages. Are they enunciated or are they more? Because my understanding is that other beings communicate a lot through telepathy. But I guess even through
Exactly.
telepathy, there's no words. It's just you're almost just in receiving a knowing of a whole conversation within just a look or just a transmit. But what did that sound like? Is it more just octaves and noises rather than because I've heard that the way that humans speak is so complicated and convoluted. To tell somebody, I'm going to go to the store later at 4, blah, 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 is the most, what's the right word for it? Just a very cumbersome, long way of saying what can be uttered in literally just a single sound for other species. Is that accurate?
Yes, and you are 100% correct. So the Arcturians, especially the Syrians, Arcturians, many star beings communicate through telepathy where they don't need to speak with each other. But these really higher dimensional benevolent star civilizations, their language is like a multi-dimensional healing codes of light, and it's called light language. So the Arcturian light language, and I did some mentorship sessions on light language around 8 years ago, that the Arcturian light languages can sound very joyful, very fast, very high pitch, almost like Asian. The Palladian light language can sometimes be a little bit more like opera singing. The Andromedan light language is really deep and from the heart, almost kind of like tribal. So they can sound in different ways. And some people just speak like more universal light language, but that's what I was more specifically shown that for me and for others too, others who have had incarnations on Arcturus or in the Pleiades or Sirius A, Sirius B, all of these magnificent stars within our galaxy that our soul remembers how to speak that language. And it's a healing language and it's a lot faster than English or a lot of these earth languages.
Yes. When you said that, which one did you say was opera? Almost an opera sounding?
Palladian.
Pleiadian, which I think I might be. I shared that with
You
you, and I'll
are,
elaborate.
you are.
I immediately brought to mind, have you seen The Fifth Element, the movie?
Yes.
Remember that alien is singing to this crowd in this, it's a beautiful, I would say a light language, but she's singing operatically, if that's a word. It's opera singing, but she's an alien. And I've heard that in the entertainment industry through music and movies, we're kind of given these little hints about what's true. And they play it off as fantasy, but what's presented as fantasy is actually very accurate in terms of what we're speaking about. Aliens, their ways, the different types of that. So I feel like that might be an example, the fifth element, where that opera singer is a cosmic being. Do you know what I'm
It
talking?
is. I do. It is. That's incredible. And it is disclosure. A lot of it is. I recently watched a video where James Cameron had channeled everything for Avatar, and the Avatar is an actual place. and he channeled it all, and the woman, she's speaking light language. I met my family at the Disney World, which is not a place I normally go, let me tell you, but I wanted to see my nieces and nephews, and I went to the Avatar land in Disney World, and there was a ride, and it's the woman, and she's speaking light language. It's like her animated body, and she is definitely speaking light language. So I love that.
That's wild. That's so crazy, but it makes sense. And I think there's a lot more of that. There's so many facets of these ideas that already exist. Can you imagine what it would be like if that wasn't just in Disneyland, that people would actually go? Well, this is what I envision, probably because I'm a Pleiadian, but that someday there we will gather together in these beautiful cathedral type places where it's can all that energy, it's like a church, but not a church because there's no doctrine. It's just shared light activation.
100%.
That probably already happens, right? Do you have a community?
That's happened 100%. And for thousands of years, like I literally was being shown the Hathor temple in Dendara in Egypt when you were talking about that. And that was the vibration, the temple's sacred geometry, the sound resonance, the rituals done within it. And people do gather in sacred places like that in Egypt and Mount Shasta, but I'm being shown you're like an oracle, you're a seer, and that which you're seeing has happened before but will be happening again.
Oh, beautiful. Beautiful. So, okay, on that note, how do those of us, including myself, a visionary, a seer, I see these things. I believe I'm here to create those things. I don't know how yet. And I will say, I told you I'm nomadic. So I've traveled the country and I believe I was guided to do that because there's, as you know, and I'm sure other beings encourage this, there's different areas on planet Earth that has different frequencies in different spots, different portals, different places that activate you, right? And I got the inspiration, the guidance that now it's my time to go abroad. I meant to go travel other lands, other continents, other countries that have whole, I'm leveling up, right? It's time for me to get to the next level. But how else do you encourage those of us who see this beautiful, bright future, or maybe we're pulling from our memories, but either way, we know that it's possible and that it looks nothing like a lot of the destitution we see in our world right now, where people feel so disconnected, where there's so much more darkness than light. How do we start creating that on Earth when it feels like there's so much pushback and so little ability to gain traction towards that vision?
I understand it feels that way, and I experience that sometimes too. But the message the Arcturians often give me is as much intensity, as much purging of personal shadow and collective shadow that is happening. The equal or more amount of support is here for us. They come to me and they say, like, we're not meant to heal alone. We're meant to do this together. And when we open our minds and open our hearts to how supported we actually are, how much attention is on earth and has been for a long time. Like the bombing of Hiroshima, which I in high school folded 1,000 peace crane origami to send to Hiroshima, that got the attention of all of the star beings in our galaxy and some neighboring galaxies too, where there are so many beings supporting humanity. The fairy kingdom is supporting humanity right now, the angelic kingdom, the star beings, the animal kingdom. There are so many beings that are further along than us in the ascension process who are reaching their hands back. And as far as receiving what could be called like the downloads or the guidance on what you're meant to do, what I'm being shown, one, working with the crystal chamber frequency, the Arcturians are always beaming these this crystalline living light that has been programmed with so much love. They beam it to us personally, but also they're beaming it to the whole planet, especially the power centers on the planet that feed the ley lines of the planet and the crystalline grid. So, like Stonehenge, the pyramids of Giza, Mount Shasta, Machu Picchu, these different places where you may be feeling called to go to those places because there's activations you're meant to receive there, but also because you being there will be helpful for the ley lines, will be helpful for the power centers. I'm a big believer in that. I had lived in 9 states by the time I was 12 years old. I've lived in Canada, I've lived in Spain, I've been to 29 countries, I've traveled the world, I've been to every continent except Australia and Antarctica, and would go spend months. Like one time I took an 8 month trip and went to 4 different continents in one journey. And one time I'd seen like the pyramids of Giza and Big Ben and the Wailing Wall and the Taj Mahal, which I almost missed. And that was a funny story. I had a woman who I was doing an advanced yoga teacher training in India, and I had actually gotten really sick and I was ready to leave India. And she was like, "Oh, I don't want you to leave yet. I feel bad you've gotten sick. Come stay at my house." And she's like, "My driver will take you." And of course, we have very different accents. I'm sure I have a very thick accent that's hard for her to understand, but she had one that was hard for me to understand. And she was like, "My driver will take you to the Taj Mahal and blah, 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 like all these things. We'll go to Love Temple, blah, blah, blah." And I was like, "No, I think I'm going to leave." And she's like, "If you really don't want to see the Taj Mahal, you really," I was like, "Are you saying your driver will take me to the Taj Mahal?" And she's like, "Yes, Hilary, the Taj Mahal." And I was like, "Okay, I'll stay a couple extra days and go to the Taj Mahal." It was kind of hilarious. But in one trip, I had seen like so many wonders of the world. I went to the Atlas Mountains in Morocco, like as those pyramids of Giza, like it goes on and on and on. And we're meant to have those adventures because it does activate things within us, but also us, you, Whitney, everyone listening to a podcast like the Women Waken will have those experiences too. But sometimes in those places, we can access the frequencies where we can receive that soul alignment. And when you were asking that question specifically about how to get that guidance, the Arcturians were saying soul alignment. It's within the soul, sitting with the soul, meditating, asking for clarity from the soul consciousness.
Beautiful. And I know that I've already received that. And I know that it happens sort of, I just visualize the budding of a flower where you can't do it all at once. And again, we are human, so we get used to wanting things quickly, right? Well, I want to have this result now. I want to know this answer now. But everything in the universe is a process. Even the evolution of the universe itself is a process. God's source is a process, always continuing its growth and expansion. So it can be hard when it feels like it's moving slowly, yet even just I have found that even just a emotional release, maybe something unexpected, an event triggers this sort of emotional outpour, you're crying, you're something, a memory is brought up, it's this release, and it feels like it's opening to something else, opening your channel a little more. Because for me, the more that I release my attachment to this particular lifetime, this lifeline, I feel more free from the things that kept me distracted, right? Like, for example, I struggled with an eating disorder. And when you're stuck in an addiction of that sort, you're very distracted. You're not looking above and around you, you're looking at this one thing. And as I was going through the process of resolving that within me, which took a lot of various healing modalities and efforts, I then began to, that's when I had my spiritual awakening because I wasn't so consumed with the self, which again, I think is a very big challenge for humans. We're so self-consumed because we're so self-conscious. And I imagine that's also a lot of the work of these higher beings is there's no need to be so afraid of how you're perceived. I think that's a very human experience to be like, so, oh my gosh, is it okay if I say this, if I look like this? Because we don't think we're safe. Again, it comes from that disconnect, right? When we're, the more that a being, a species is connected to source, everything's unconditional. There's no concerns, right? But humans believe that there are certain things they need to be safe. And as soon as we can overcome that, shift that belief, everything can change. But right now, everybody's holding on so tightly to what they think they need. Again, we're all distracted. So I consider people like you and I who've begun that process of releasing our own self, our own self focus, are going to be sort of the way showers of what I think is coming pretty soon of there's a new way. I call us the trailblazers. There's going to be more people who are blazing new trails and not forcing them and not promoting them per se, but just creating them and walking them. And it's going to look a lot more appealing than the paths that we've created thus far as humans. Do you understand?
I fully agree, and that completely resonates. Yeah, it's so true. And the paths that have been the trails that we've had maybe access to really aren't supportive of us. Like these paths that have been made aren't supportive, and that wisdom of what we focus on. And the Arcturians would say that to me all the time. Like imagine looking through a magnifying glass and you're just looking at that one thing on the other side of the magnifying glass, and that's all you're focused on. That's the reality that you're experiencing. And sometimes they literally say, put down the magnifying glass and become aware of how much love there is, how much support there is. They always say to me that love is in the air that we're breathing, like becoming aware of how much light is coming in. Because also, when we're too focused on like the depth of the darkness, just knowing that it's a process, that I've been shown that as Earth is ascending, as humanity collectively is going through an ascension process, and as we are individually going through it, there's just so much shadow purging that sometimes we can get overwhelmed by that shadow and think like that that's all that there is. But really, we're meant to be allowing everything to move through us and continuing to open our focus and continuing to have to choose what we want to align with, to choose what we want to receive, because it can be so easy to pick up that magnifying glass and hyper focus on one thing. But is that one thing helping you create the life you want to live? Is it helping you create what you want for humanity, what you want for this earth? Because I really feel what you said, that we're stepping into what many visionaries have seen, like is a new earth, into a new human, into a new era. And we're definitely hitting the bumps in the road. And sometimes we hit those bumps and we think that that bump is all that there is, but it's not. When we keep moving forward and we keep tapping into what we want to receive, what we want to focus on.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And how beautiful that there's people like you that are so attuned and connected to help those of us who are, we know, we have this knowing, right? And again, humans aren't really encouraged to trust their knowing. They are taught you need to look outside of yourself and ask other people for what's true, what's right, what's possible. Where the truth is, within you is where the deepest depths of infinite possibility lives. But we're not taught that. Again, there's this whole other aspect of control on planet Earth where people don't really want us to have this autonomy, this immense power within us to pull from our own power. So we limit ourselves by saying, I think I know something, but I can't look there. It's too weird. It's not aligned with what I've been told that's true about us, about humans, about Earth. So I'm just going to let that go. But when you start, I don't know, for me, the older I get, I'm like, I don't give a shit anymore what people think. If they think I'm crazy, they already think I'm crazy. And I think that's also going to be a turning point, Hilary, is that when there's enough of us who just don't care about, it's almost, I just got to mind like the witch trials, right? Even though it wasn't even witches, they weren't doing anything that crazy back then. But it was just women who were offering alternative ways of healing, of living, of being, different ideas, and they were cast aside. Well, I think we're reaching that point where more of us are stepping out. We're coming out of the closet, if you will. Many of us are coming out of the closet, and this time we're not going to get killed for it. So there's going to be, like we're talking about, this progress, this procession of, wow, look at this, look at that. People are going to take notice. So that's just kind of coming to mind right now. And that's what I'm looking forward to because I'm ready to be that weirdo that I already am. But just, speaking it out. And I think there'll be more people in public platforms speaking this where they can't hold us back any longer from doing so.
I fully agree. And the more we are like our weird, which I feel like even the definition means supernatural. I read that one time. The more we are our supernatural selves, the more we find like-minded people, the more we find community. When I'd been teaching, yes, spiritual things, but like yoga and energy healing and things that maybe are more a little bit more spiritual mainstream as opposed to like cosmic galactic. And then it's like now there'll be this program called the Fairy Queen Council Initiations, the Crystal Chamber Healers Academy, like just create a group and share what we've been teaching you. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like what are people going to think of this? And then just the level of resonance, the level of love, the amount of miracles. And that's when you really feel alive, when you're allowing your soul to express. And that soul alignment is like that soul being deep within ourselves, where it's so deep within in that central column, that alignment that it's guiding us.
Yes, absolutely. You're very excited. This is getting me very excited, Hilary. I love this conversation. Such a perfect, I'm so glad that this worked out because I needed this, right? Sometimes you need this too. That's why I have this podcast is I get lost sometimes and I think, is any of that really, is it real? Is that really what I can focus on? And I kind of lose myself back in whether you want to call it the 3D, the matrix, the life on earth, right? But then I have these conversations and I remember, oh, that's right. I'm a freaking badass who's from another planet. And that's what's real. And it's going to bring such greater harmony and greater possibilities on earth. And that's what excites me. So, on that note, Hilary, I have to ask if you could break it down for us because I've heard so much about different, whether you want to call them star beings, higher beings. I don't know their actual traits. I know I've read about it at times, but could you share a little of your experience, whoever you'd like to talk about, but maybe starting with the Pleiadians, because that's what I've felt resonant with. My listeners know that, and I just showed you, I have this birthmark that's basically the Pleiades on my stomach. And when I first started learning about all this, I kept hearing Pleiadian, Pleiadian over and over. But then I'm also curious about Lemurians because I felt connected to that. And I've also always kind of wondered, like, what did happen to them? Because they actually were on Earth. Unlike some of these other beings that we think of as being in different places in the cosmos, Lemurians were here. And you can still go to places on Earth where their energy resonates and you can be in those portals. So, and then the Arcturians, the Syrians, the Adra, anyone who'd like to tell us about what are their personalities like? And do they have personalities? Is it like humans where they have their quirks and their traits and their things and their certain look?
They definitely do. And I love this question because it's so fun. Starting with the Palladians, it's interesting when I'm shown them, I'm almost shown them, I'm not comparing them to Kuan Yin, who is like the Bodhisattva and like the Mother Mary of the East, but multiple times I've seen the Palladians and I've seen Kuan Yin, and every time I'm shown complete like see-through iridescence, like, and the guides will be like they're like the purest of the pure. So the Palladians are the keepers of the fifth dimension of consciousness. Humanity is the keeper of the third dimension of consciousness. That's why we create the physical reality we experience. The Palladians are the keepers of the fifth dimension, which is love consciousness, oneness, unity consciousness. They're like our older aunts and uncles who are deeply enlightened, incredibly loving, and wise. I often see them as like white iridescent, but they have very Nordic like features, big blue eyes, long blonde hair, very Scandinavian looking. And all of these star beings work together. Everybody works together. The main starship, one of the main starships of the Arcturians, which is not a physical ship, it's a light ship. It's called the Starship Athena. And they're like, it's after the goddess Athena. Like the goddesses work with the star beings, the archangels work with the star beings. Like the whole crew is together to help humanity. So the Arcturians are my primary guides, and they are the highest dimensional star beings in our galaxy, which means that all of the other star beings look up to the Arcturians. They are the most advanced, ancient, enlightened, highly loving, very, very joyful. They often they connect with us in holographic light bodies, so not physical forms. They're mostly blue of the blue ray, but sometimes they can be like that iridescent white as well. And they have really loving almond eyes. And again, they're the master healers and masters of ascension. The Syrians, like the Sirius A, Sirius B, they're a little bit more serious in that they are the master teachers of our galaxy, but they're incredibly wise and benevolent and good as well. Sirius A is, some believe, the spiritual sun. This is the home to many mystery schools, higher university. Sirius B is an emerald water planet where there are many master dolphins and whales. So Sirius A and B are together and connected, and the Sirians are the wisdom bringers. It is said that they have the ability to teach us in these ways. The Andromedans, which again, everyone I've discussed is right in the Milky Way. The Andromedan is Andromeda's the next galaxy. They're deeply heart-centered, very wise, very discerning, very loving, almost tribal, deeply connected. The Lyrans are like the courageous heart beings of our galaxy from Lyra, and they are like cat humanoid like. They are playful, but they are of the fierce heart, this really powerful fierce heart. So we have such a beautiful collective of beings who work with each other and kind of let the skills lead. Like, I love that about the Syrians. Like, they are really in their roles as master teachers, and the Arcturians are really in their roles as the master healers and masters of ascension.
Wow. Thank you so much for that breakdown. That's incredible.
You're so welcome.
And how amazing that you've had this exposure, this connection with these beings. Now, Hilary, why, and this isn't sort of, question anything, but why did this come through for you? Why do you think it is that you were so open to this? Because you said that you've had many lives on Earth.
I've had different lives on Earth, but I'd had many lives in Arcturus. And what they share with me, for me and for all of us, is often our guides. Like, they are our family. Where one time they were like, "We're here for you because we love you and we want to support humanity, but also like we are your family." Like, one of my primary guides is my Arcturian grandmother, where we have had different life, many of us have had different lifetimes with these beings, so they're connected in that way. I feel part of my mission is to empower people to embrace their innate healing abilities. I've trained over 5,000 healers, and I think the Arcturians chose me as one of their ambassadors. There are others because they knew I've done this work in a lot of lifetimes. I've been a healer and a priestess in many, 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 many lifetimes. In many lifetimes, whole communities and civilizations were living in the fifth dimension of consciousness and such deep love. And I was killed in many, many lifetimes for the spiritual work that I did as well, too, because I was like, would be like the high priestess of these different things. So, on a soul level, I've been doing it for a long time. Also, a lot of deep humility. I feel like I feel a lot of humility in it, where even though my soul maybe has been doing this for a long time, and even though I've been doing deep spiritual work for 23 years in this lifetime, I still sometimes feel like I know nothing. Like, I'm kind of in that space of just like the no thingness that is the all in all, where I used to feel that way, where I'm like, oh, I don't even know anything. And then a question is asked, and it's like, oh, look at all that information that just came through, because it's within us all. It really is within us all. And one of my biggest passions is helping people harmonize so that they can receive that soul alignment, receiving the nervous system healing, the hormonal balancing, the repair of the aura of the biofield so that they can be their authentic selves and express their soul's gifts. That's what I'm really here to do. Like, I don't even like talking about myself, or unless it's a podcast interview or I'm being asked a question, like when I'm doing teachings and transmissions, like it's not about me. It's not about me being on show or being on a pedestal in any way. It's about everyone receiving that harmonization that can bring that sense of alignment and empowerment, which is what I came to do. I was shown that, like, I picked my parents because I needed to go through a lot really, really fast and really, really young. It was like there's no time to mess around. Like let's get all the traumas in super fast so that we can awaken and do what we're here to do.
Amen. There's a lot of us. There's a lot of us that just got just, and that again, we pick where we come from. I've heard that we needed this catalyst. We needed a very catalytic childhood that caused us to doubt ourselves, to feel that pain, that separation, that grief, that loss, the addiction, whatever it might be for all of us, and then to reclaim ourselves. That's the whole process, is realizing just because something happens to me, it doesn't change who I am fundamentally, that there's something within us that's eternal, that's unconditional. And that's what all my challenges brought me to recognize. And I think that so many of us that were meant to really help humanity at this time chose that catalytic childhood. Not so pleasant, not so fun, but we are tough. We made it through. And those of us who made it to the other side, not everybody did, right? That's the other part. Not everybody made it. Those of us who did, I think we do have that strong we feel very compelled to bring our gifts forward and to help others, right? The strong draw. My draw is speech. Which, by the way, do you see, I've heard that Pleiadians are a lot about speech. Is that accurate? Are they pretty talkative?
Yes, they are. And they're really into like philosophy and culture and art. And they have a whole, like, one of the main stars, Alcyone, like, is their hub of culture and government. And yeah, communication is a big aspect.
Beautiful. And then, okay, I have to ask, because you spoke about your work in allowing people this harmonization, right? And also the harmonization of the planet. But you also do speak of, because this is the Women Awaken podcast, and my awakening really began with this emphasis after I visited the UK for the first time. I went to close to Glastonbury, which is considered the heart chakra of Earth, a very catalytic place. And I came home and I just had this idea of women, there's this power in women, the divine feminine. And I was like, where is this coming from? That was a lot of my awakening. So that's what this show is about. That's why I started the podcast, Woman Awaken. But you talk about the rise of the divine feminine consciousness. And I'm always curious about other people's take on what does that mean? So what does that mean to you? The importance of the rise of the divine feminine consciousness. What does that create? What does that allow for?
We had been in, I believe, a 4,000 year cycle of masculine domination. Like the Hathor Temple in Dendara was one of the last, like, the feminine energy ruled. And then it was like, religion and all of these things that were suppressing the feminine. But how I see the feminine is soul led, intuitive, heart centered, nurtured, guidance, strength. Like the feminine is everything. She's wild, she's free, she can scream and cry and dance and meditate. And what I've been shown from these goddesses, like Goddess Hathor and Isis and Kuan Yin, Mary Magdalene, Mother Mary, is that the divine feminine consciousness is reawakening on earth. In this age of ascension, it is the age of the divine feminine, but it's also reawakening in every single woman. Like, I at one point was like, where is it awakening? And my guides were literally like, inside of all of you. Like, that awakening, that rise is literally happening within us all. And it doesn't mean that we can't be messy and that we can't be wild, because sometimes if we're yelling or crying or whatever the experience may be, like that is all part of it. It's we're unleashing all aspects that is the feminine.
Woo, that's exciting. I love it. And that's what I feel. That's what I felt that when I started feeling compelled to bring women together, to hold women's groups, to focus on feminine energies, that's what it was all busting out of me. And I just, it just came to mind what you just said is that the cycle ended and we went through the masculine, but now as this comes back to life, it is coming to life within women. This impetus, this focus, this excitement around this is what wants to come out, come forward, to be reintroduced to our society because our society has been absent of any feminine influence for, like you said, thousands of years, and it's at a great cost, right? But then aren't we but my understanding though is that it's this time, and I could be wrong, rather than entering another full cycle of feminine, there's a balance that's meant to occur. The yin and yang of the masculine and feminine, because we went so far into the masculine this time that maybe we don't want to go all the way back to the feminine just to have these keep swings happening. Do you think that that's possible?
I do. And I think we want to be balanced because that feminine consciousness is awakening in men too. And we want to be balanced. We want the benefits of the masculine, of the divine masculine, of really the conscious masculine, which supports the feminine in so many ways. And I really focus on that. Like I deeply appreciate my masculine qualities and the masculine energy and my feminine qualities and the feminine energy. And I don't judge one as better than the other or preferred over the other. It's the unique combination. And some people may have a higher quotient of feminine energy or a higher quotient of masculine energy, but we are entering into a deeper balance within our own expression.
Wonderful. And that's also a very exciting time because it creates a better experience for humans when you have access to that. And then I also wanted to ask, because another thing that you help people with and that you speak about is how crystal chamber nervous system regeneration opens receptivity of your heart's desires. So that's another thing when I think of when humans feel hopeless, it's because they have these dreams and these visions, but they feel closed off to it. They think, I'll never have that. I'll never find real love. I'll never find abundance. I'll never find true happiness and joy, which is actually the whole purpose of the soul's experience. So it's our birthright to experience that, but we feel closed off to it. So is that what the chamber nervous system regeneration helps with?
Yeah, it's one of the many things. So I'll share a little bit more about the crystal chamber and then the nervous system regeneration. So the Arcturians have these crystal temples on Arcturus, and they have these fleet of light ships, including the mothership, including the starship Athena. They're organic matter. They're not solid. They're powered by crystalline frequency. So they're always beaming this crystal consciousness on the planet Earth, but also to us, where we can ask to connect to these fields of light, where I've been shown one in our light bodies or our astral bodies, we can enter the crystal chamber on the starship Athena, but also the Arcturian crystal chamber master healers will beam down these holographic fields of living crystalline light all around us. I'm normally shown the fields like 4 feet from the physical body, above, behind, below, left side, right side, all around us. The healings, the Arcturian healings, take place within the crystal chambers, and the nervous system regeneration was the first healing that they trained me in. And a particular aspect of the nervous system, which is the vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve that has such a huge impact on the parasympathetic sympathetic nervous system. So we have the sympathetic nervous system, and when we're in that, we're reacting to life. It's a reaction. We're either freezing, or we're fighting, or we're fleeing, or we're fawning, where we feel like we have to people please in order to be safe. So there's these different reactions. In that, the body's on guard, it's in alert. We're not digesting, we're not receiving nutrients, we're not healing. Then there's the parasympathetic mode, which is our body's innate healing system. When we're in that mode, we're open, we're relaxed, all the processes are working, the body is digesting, we're receiving the nutrients from our food. And there's a huge bundle of vagus nerve around the heart. So it stems from the medulla oblongata at the base of the skull, and then the nerves come down the neck, a big bundle around the heart, a big bundle around all the digestive organs. But I've been shown in that vagus nerve bundle around the heart, when that bundle is caught in one of the sympathetic programs of like feeling like you're frozen, feeling like you have to fight against everything, run from everything, people please, fawn your way out of everything, we're not open to receiving, not as open to receiving. And when we work with the frequencies, so like there's a whole process. And I'm actually going to be teaching this for free in an upcoming free 4-day training. And I wanted to invite people that I have a special gift that I've never offered before that's completely free, where after doing over 1,000 crystal chamber healings and after having probably over maybe 10,000 people receiving the group healing transmissions, the Arcturians showed me that I could create the healing transmission through an audio where I would put in all these frequencies like binaural beats and solfeggio frequencies for the thing that we're working on, and that the audio would become a transmission of the crystal chamber healing. So these are normally paid healing transmissions. I've never offered 3 of them for free, but the 3 I wanted to share with everyone because I've just gotten countless emails of the benefits that people have received. One is specifically for the vagus nerve to really unwind and regenerate that those bundles so that we can open our heart's receptivity. The second is for the adrenals because I know a lot of us are dealing with so much stress. And then the third is for the energy field, but it's called the 7 layers of energetic protection, where there's 7 layers of the energy field. Like the first layer represents our physical well being, the second layer, our emotional well being, the third, our mental well being. And then as we go higher up, they become even more spiritual and represent like our divine connection, our voice, our intuition. But they showed me the specific frequencies like white sage, palo santo, selenite, rose quartz, amethyst for each layer. And that third transmission is called the 7 layers of energetic protection. So I will make sure you have the link. I made it simple where it's my name, which is Hilary with 2 L's. Hillary, and then Faye, FAYE.com/gift. But that's where people can receive it. And then I'm going to be offering some free upcoming trainings pretty soon with how to work with the nervous system regeneration, how to anchor the energy of the crystal chambers. But the amount that it affects, from our ability to digest, the ability of mental clarity, the ability of opening our heart's receptivity. I'm so glad that you asked that question, Whitney.
That is beautiful and so exciting. I cannot wait to sign up for that. And when does it happen?
So the 3 free transmissions are audio recordings that people can receive anytime, and then the 4-day training begins on February 9th. So it's coming up in about 2 weeks exactly today, maybe. Yeah, 2 weeks.
Fabulous. That's why I'm going to release this episode this week in 2 days
Amazing.
so that
Thank
people
you.
can find out about it. Okay. Thank you so much, Hillary, for that information. Very inspiring, very exciting. And now I'd like to request, if possibly, because you'd mentioned that you can do this sometimes on a show, doing a short transmission for my audience.
I'd love to. So we can start connecting with that frequency right away. I have a lot of crystals with me on my desk too. This
Wow,
is
look
one of
at
the
that
main
guy.
ones I work with, which is a Lemurian quartz, and it helps bring the energy through. And then the second one is kind of a really large lapis lazuli crystal.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's
we'll do.
stunning.
Thank you. They help bring in the frequencies. They're my trusty companions. So yeah, I invite everyone who'd like to receive, and we can keep it to around 5 minutes to softly close your eyes and receive a breath. Receiving a breath to integrate all that's been shared. Receiving a breath to set down any proverbial magnifying glass of what you may have been focused on and really open to the level of support. The Arcturians are sharing and asking for you to become aware of how loved you are. And then to breathe that love into your heart as we ask now your higher self to oversee the connection to the Arcturian crystal chamber master healers. And now we're going to call in the light of the crystal chamber of nervous system regeneration. Your higher self has connected you with this frequency. And now the Arcturians are beaming down these crystalline, living, holographic fields of light that are forming above you, in front of you, below you, behind you, on the left and the right. And then we're going to begin bringing in the frequency of the violet flame into the vagus nerve bundles surrounding your heart and lungs. Breathing in the crystalline, liquid, living light, the cool fire of cellular and emotional transmutation of the violet flame. Breathing it into your heart and seeing every layer of the nerves, including the energetic layer, that myelonian sheath around the vagus nerve bundles, being cleansed, rinsed, and regenerated. Counting 3 more deep breaths as your higher self is connecting you with the crystal chamber master healers and their holographic light bodies. They radiate the blue ray light of wisdom and empowerment. And they have really gorgeous almond-shaped eyes that are absolutely filled with love. And just count a few more breaths here. As now I want you to breathe in the Arcturian blue diamond light. So the crystalline living light harmonizes and brings coherence. The violet flame, that cool fire, brings clarity and cellular emotional transmutation. And the blue diamond light, so the Arcturians are placing what is like a Stargate crystal wand in front of your heart now. And that blue diamond light is what regenerates and repairs the nerve. Counting 3 deep breaths, becoming aware that all of these frequencies hold so much love and harmony. The deeper you breathe, the deeper you receive. So breathe it into your heart, bringing these nerve bundles into deeper coherence, supporting heart coherence, breath coherence, heart receptivity. 3 more breaths. We give great thanks to the Arcturian Crystal Chamber Master Healers. We give great thanks to your higher self. The Arcturians are smiling upon you with so much love, saying that the connection is just beginning. And whenever you're ready, you can gently wiggle and gently open the eyes.
Beautiful. Thank you so much, Hilary. Wow. What a transmission. That was powerful. And yet also very gentle and lovely. I
Thank
appreciate
you.
you so much, Hilary, for being such a wonderful guest. It was a pleasure to have you on. Now I'm kind of in a daze as I try to wrap this up from that beautiful transmission. But thank you so much, Hilary. I appreciate your work so much. And again, I needed this. And I know that a lot of women listening, whoever listens, needed this to remind us that there's this beautiful, playful, fun, exciting energy that is accessible to all of us and is a great representation of who we truly are. And it's something to be excited about, right? For anyone listening who's in that dark place where all the stresses and struggles of earth surround you, there's so much hope for us. So thank you for reminding us of this, and thank you for the work that you do to be brave and speak of it. Speak of these things that not everybody understands.
Thank you, Whitney. Thank you, everyone listening. And the guides are saying when women waken, the world changes. So you are fulfilling your mission. Thank you.
Woo! All right, Hilary. Well, again, this was so wonderful. And you shared your website, but where else can people find you if they'd like to connect with you and learn more about you?
Definitely, yeah. HilaryFaye.com, Hilary with 2 L's, Faye. For the gift, HilaryFaye.com/gift. And then I'm on Instagram. My handle is HilaryFaye108. I'm on Facebook. And yeah, I absolutely would love to connect. And anyone who receives those 3 transmissions then will receive an invitation to the free 4-day training coming up as well too. So it's going to be a powerful 4 days. I'm looking forward to it, and we'll be doing a lot of global healing and personal healing.
Amazing. I can't wait. So exciting. Thank you again so much, Hilary. I'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Take care.